Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Sinclair here with another edition of Skywatch Alaska. We're just going to go over a couple of things because we have these beautiful clear skies. So good opportunities to not only do some stargazing, but also to maybe catch the aurora a little bit. Yesterday it looked like the forecast was going to be a little bit stronger than it is today, but we're Alaskans and we know that sometimes we need to take the chance. Really, we have gotten some lovely, lovely photos from different viewers. This one's sent by Berker Ivanov. Beautiful shot of the aurora. We're going to talk about this photo here in just a few minutes because he had a question about why we're seeing so much red. So I'm going to discuss that in a second, but I also want to show you this amazing shot by Jamie Lyons. That is just so lovely, and you can see really a crystal clear shot, and I love seeing all the stars through that. Now the question, as I said, was why are we seeing so much red in the aurora? One of the things is that typically you're going to see the red if it's through a camera lens. Our eyes aren't quite as sensitive enough to catch that red color. Specifically, we see more of the green, we'll see the white, even sometimes the purple, but the red is a little bit harder for our eyes to pick up. So if you're taking photos, you are going to see more of that red, sometimes that pink glow. Now, where the red comes from, the different colors all come from not only which gases the energy is hitting, but what the height of that gas is. And so red is a high altitude impact. It happens probably 120 to 300 miles above the Earth, and it is oxygen. And when those oxygen molecules get excited, they start releasing energy and it becomes a red light. But that is the high level activities. Now, green is our most common color, and that is typically, it's also from oxygen, but it is lower in the atmosphere, probably 60 to 150 miles. You'll also see purple. That is when it interacts with that energy from the sun interacts with nitrogen molecules, and so that is what you're seeing there. So it really just depends on what it's running into, and not only what gas it is running into, but what the height of it is. So the reds are at the height at the top, and you can see even in that image that definitely the reds are showing up above the green. Again, just some beautiful photos that we get sent to by our viewers. We're also been getting some interesting photos with some optic phenomenon, we'll call it. And this is one of them. These are light pillars. And really a lot of these same effects, the light pillars, when you see fog bows, when you see sundogs, it's all dealing with how the ice crystals line up. Typically very cold temperatures, which is what we're seeing here. And this was sent to us by Barney Pete. And it's really that we're getting this horizontal alignment of those ice crystals. They kind of drift down into the air, and it was described to me like tiny dinner plates layering on top of each other, and then the light from the source, which in this case is the buildings, gets reflected through, it hits the horizontal crystal surfaces and reflects directly back up, and that creates that vertical light. Now often when you'll see these circles, we're like this fog bow, we're dealing with crystals that are aligning at a different angle. Excuse me. And so just amazing. Another optic phenomenon that we have been sent is the Fata Morgana, and this to me is just fascinating. This was sent to us by Jojo Prince. Jojo is a frequent contributor to our weather pictures, and he just really sends in some amazing photos. And this was some Fata Morgana where it's called the superior optic illusion, and this is where you get and it's a temperature inversion that's helping to create this, and you really get to see the mountains, the clouds, things are really distorted, and sometimes the people will see ships in them, and so it is quite an interesting effect. They call it a complex optical illusion or a superior mirage, and it's distant objects, oh my goodness, like ships or land appear distorted, they're stacked down, or in this case kind of crunched, and it's dealing with a temperature inversion that cold air is trapped under warm air, and it creates these distinct layers, and you get light traveling at a different rate through the cooler air than it does through the warmer air. So it kind of bends downwards to what you're seeing. So really interesting. So we really appreciate JoJo sending in that very cool and interesting photo. This one I just thought was cool, how much light you actually get from the moon. You can see a little bit of that light green aurora. Mike Garrison sent that in to us. And still, again, one of the recommendations that we got from somebody who takes a lot of aurora photographs is tripod. You can take a lovely shot on your phone, but really the basic thing that you need is a tripod to get that nice steady shot so you can have a slightly longer exposure, and just a beautiful shot. And then this one I thought was really cool because it is the crescent moon. We have the waning remnants of that crescent moon over the next couple of days. We get to the new moon actually on the 19th, so we're only going to see a little bit more, just a couple more days of that tiny crescent moon. So just thought it was a really cool picture that Willie Pete sent us, and amazing clear skies. So let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing on the aurora forecast, because of course when we get these beautiful clear skies, we automatically think, oh, hopefully the aurora is out. And it's going to be okay, but not fabulous. Well, for this afternoon, we do look for a KP index of 4 for much of the state, starting at about 4 o'clock, or excuse me, 6 o'clock going to 9 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock going until midnight. Those are going to be our peak times. Then it drops back down to a 3. So this means areas in the interior likely have some pretty active aurora, and also areas all the way extended down. Someplace it'll be low on the horizon, but possibly visible overhead in Anchorage and Juneau. Again, starting up at about 6 o'clock tonight is what the forecast is, going until 6 tomorrow morning. But when you look at the long range forecast, and this is, of course, I'm on the UAF Geophysical Institute's site. When you look at the 27-day forecast, we do see some pretty big hits over the next couple days, starting next week from the 22nd all the way through the 26th right now. And again, it gets a little less reliable when you go out more than 3 days. We're pretty reliable within that 3-day period, but once you get a little farther out, we are looking at some a little bit less reliable. But it does look like we have a chance to see some activity close to a 5, and then even around New Year's Eve, the day before New Year's Eve, so the 30th, looking at a chance of about a 6. So those are always fantastic. Now we have passed the solar activity peak, and so we are starting to see that slow decline. It's a very slow decline. We have about 5.5 years before we get to the solar minimum. So we've got a number of years of good activity. The other thing to remember from what we've learned is that, this was new to me this year, is that while the solar activity continues to decline, for a couple years after that peak, the aurora activity will stay high because the sunspots on the sun are moving closer to the equator, so that energy is hitting more directly toward the Earth. And so even though the solar activity is starting to decrease just a little bit, we're still seeing a lot of activity, and a lot more of it will be directed toward the Earth. So we have still good opportunities to see the aurora over the next couple of years. So keep your cameras ready, and of course, don't forget to send them to us, because we love to see the aurora photos. The other big thing that is happening coming up this weekend is, of course, the solstice. And this is an animation by the Goddard Institute and the Goddard Space Flight Center. And it kind of gives you an indication. So, of course, the Earth axis is rotated just a little bit off true at 23.5 degrees. And so at this point, this means on the solstice, the winter solstice, the Earth will hit directly over the Tropic of Capricorn, farthest away from the northern portion of the Earth. So that's when we're going to see that shortest day. We've actually seen our earliest sunset, so those will start getting increasing. And really here in South Central, we're only going to lose a couple more minutes of daylight between now and the solstice when we start gaining again. Of course, we will only be gaining seconds at a time initially, but it's still a wonderful thing. I always think about how the dark months are December, January, and February, but really those are the months that we're gaining light. And I think it's just that we're so attuned to the fact that we're already in the darkness at that point that we see that. So just kind of thinking of it that way, that starting on on Monday, we will start gaining daylight. So we're actually turning things a little bit brighter over the next couple of months. So again, forecast for the aurora tonight. If you want to get a chance to see it, you're probably your best chances starting at about 6 o'clock going until about midnight. Interior, probably going to have the best chance to see that. We love to see your pictures. So please send them to us. And the best way to get them to us is let me see if I can get this over there. There we go. You can go to our website and you see this button right up here that says submit photos and videos. When you click on that, it takes you to this web page, and it is a pretty, there's that photo that I just showed. And it's really quite easy. You just add media, and then it will walk you through step by step how to get the picture to us. And of course, we love to hear not only where you took the picture, give us a little bit of information about it so we can talk about your photos as well. And of course, if your name, if people routinely mispronounce your name, feel free to put in how we should say your name, because we want to make sure that everybody gets the right credit. So aurora forecast for tonight, solstice coming up on Sunday for the winter solstice happens Sunday, and then we start gaining daylight. Very excited about that. Thank you so much for joining us here on Skywatch Alaska, and keep looking up at those stars.